mang dako ng mundo, may migranteng Pilipino, nag-aalab ang puso. Whoa, whoa. Mabuhay ka, migranteng Pilipino, walang hindi magagawa, hangad ay pagunlad ng bansa. Mabuhay ka, migranteng Pilipino, walang hindi magagawa, magkakaisa ang migranteng Pilipino. Saan mang dako ng mundo, whoa, oh.
Magandang gabi po. You're listening to Radyo Migrante on CHRY 105.5 FM, your leading source for diversity. You can also be listening to us on Bell 5973, Rogers Cable 945, or on www.chry.fm. And again, it is still African Liberation Month here at CHRY, and we'd like to ask all our listeners to remember all the issues faced by Black Canadians and by people in Africa right now, and how this connects really to the struggles of people in the global south all around the world. So today on Radio Migrante, we're going to be talking about the building of union networks and activists here in Toronto. So in our interview, we'll be featuring the Filipino Labor Network and other Filipino-Canadian union members who came together to Salo-Salo 2015 yesterday. This network is supported by the Toronto and York Region Labor Council staff, but also led by activists and union leaders from across the community. We'll be asking questions about the union message that they want to bring to the community and how they support each other through the act of unionism, and how activists and unionists can come together. Our guest will be Josh Kwasay, the steering committee member of the Filipino Workers Network and a member of the Solidarity and Executive Board of Unite Here Local 75. You were there yesterday, yeah, Ish? Dun
Yes,
sa Salo-Salo?
that's why I'm wearing this bonnet right now.
Oh yes, nakikita mo ng tao eh.
Yes, of course. Nasa radyo tayo eh.
So, ano nangyari? Kamusta yun?
Yeah, it was well attended. Like 100 people came there. There was lechon and pancit, of course, Filipino food. And a lot of networking. People, because it's very rare that people go to sit down and talk about how the union is going forward and where is it coming from, basically. There was a discussion about that as well, very well presented, and lots of talks about what are we going to expect some more this year in the coming years.
Okay, so I think this is a good transition to talk about the news, because I think the very first bit we have is about the situation of Filipino workers in the Philippines.
Yes, so that I will read. For our first news, Philippine workers stand for the right to strike. This is from bulatlat.com. In quotes, along with the right to organize, there's the right to strike, end quote. This is what Filipino workers from the private and public sectors asserted as they trooped to the main office of the Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, in Intramuros, Manila on February 18th, Wednesday. The event coincides with the Global Day of Action for the Right to Strike. An article on the International Trade Union Confederation, or ITUC website said February 18 has been designated by the International Trade Union Confederation General Council as a global day of action in defense of the right to strike, which is under attack by employer groups at the International Labor Organization. Since 2012, the article continued, the employers group, composed of big transnational corporations in the ILO, insists that the Convention 87 on Freedom of Association does not actually guarantee the workers the right to strike. Among those who joined were the labor group Kilusang Mayo Uno, or KMU, Toyota Motor Philippines Corporation, Workers Associations, or TMPCW, Federation of Free Workers, or FFW, Public Teachers Group Alliance of Concerned Teachers, or ACTS, and the Government Health Workers Group Alliance of Health Workers. KMU said that attempt of the employers group to suppress the workers' right to strike is due to the global economic crisis. In a statement, they said In quotes, we condemn big capitalist and pro-capitalist governments who want to render the International Labour Organization inutile when it comes to upholding workers' right to strike. They don't want the ILO to be of any help to workers who hold strikes against the neoliberal austerity measures being implemented by pro-capitalist governments, especially in Europe, in response to the persisting global financial and economic crisis. Lawyer and president of the FFW, Jose Sonny Matula, said the right to strike is guaranteed under the Philippine Constitution and the Labor Code. He pointed out that the right to strike is not only in the ILO Convention 87 but also in the labor laws of the countries around the world. Meanwhile, Roger Soluta, Secretary General of KMU, said, in quotes, "The right to strike cannot be separated from the right to organize. The reason why workers are organized and unionized is to collectively defend their right, and through a strike they are asserting that right. Without it, organizing is futile." In the recent ITUC Global Rights Index report, the Philippines ranked 5th, or one of the worst countries in the world to work in. The ITUC Global Rights Index data also showed that many countries around the world mostly violate workers' rights to strike. KMU also lambasted the government's claim that there are less strikes in the country despite the worsening condition faced by Filipino workers. Franz Castro, Secretary General of ACT, meanwhile said a strike is imminent because the government remains callous on their calls for salary increase. She said that more than 100 congressmen co-authored the bill increasing the salaries of teachers and non-working personnel, but President Benigno S. Aquino chooses to disregard it. Castro also said that even if the public sector employees are prohibited from staging strikes, the ACT National Capital Region Union included their right to strike in their recently signed collective negotiation agreement, or CNA. Castro announced that on the 24th of this month, teachers would also once again hold a nationwide sit-down strike. Public school teachers have previously held a nationwide sit-down strike in November last year, 2014.
All right, next, the Mama Sapano incident has sparked an outcry of additional criticism of the current president's human rights record. B.S. Aquino's Daan Matuwid has hit a dead end, says human rights organization Karapatan's General Secretary Cristina Palabay. Here's a series of quotes from Ms. Palabay. Quote, "When B.S. Aquino sacrificed his own troops for the interests of a foreign country, his crimes against the nation have already reached its peak. It has nowhere else to go but to Accountability Street. Despite his claims, B.S. Aquino has been especially indifferent to the plight of Moro peoples and the indigenous communities of Mindanao. It is no wonder that he easily risked the lives of Moro families in Mamasapano, Maguindanao for the U.S. government. Back in November 2014, when hundreds of Mindanaoans came to Manila to cry for food and peace in Mindanao, B.S. Aquino simply shunned their presence. The Zamboanga siege in 2013 victimized hundreds of Moro peoples, sending them to evacuation centers in subhuman conditions, which led to diseases and deaths of children. This also led to a number of deaths, imprisonment, and torture of many Moro peoples suspected to be members of the Moro National Liberation Front. Many of them are still languishing in jail. B.S. Aquino's neglect of the plight of many Filipinos in Sabah, mostly the Tausug, and his tolerance of the Malaysian government's crackdowns against undocumented Filipinos is another crime. The B.S. Aquino regime has a highway of crimes that could no longer be ignored. Added to these are the issues of corruption through the unconstitutional disbursement acceleration program and the sellout of Philippine sovereignty with the signing of the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement with the U.S. government." End quote. Palabay further reiterated that the human rights violations perpetrated by the Aquino regime for and with the U.S. government through its counterinsurgency program has disrupted and claimed thousands of lives. As of the end of 2014, Karapatan had documented at least 229 extrajudicial killings, 225 frustrated killings, 106 cases of torture, 46,861 records of victims of forced evacuation, and 700 illegal arrests under the current president's regime.
For our next news, Save Our Nation, Resign Aquino movement launches signature campaign, and this is from bulatlat.com. Only one impeachment proceeding against an elected leader can be tackled in Philippine Congress per year. And so individuals and groups fed up with President Noynoy Aquino's fatal mistakes launched on February 19th. A signature drive demanding his resignation. And for starters, the signature drive is to be held in major schools and universities, led by academicians, teachers, and student groups grouped under the Save Our Nation Aquino Resign movement, or SONAR. The leaders of SONAR said that President Aquino has violated the Philippine Constitution and has proven to be insincere toward the Filipino people, whom he calls his, in quotes, boss, end quote, but never treats them as such. National Artist for Literature Dr. Bienvenido Lumbera said at the press conference that one of the gravest reasons for the call for President Aquino's resignation is his cover-up attempt of the U.S. role in the Mama Sapano incident. On January 25th, elements of the Special Action Force of the Philippine National Police were deployed to Mama Sapano, Maguindanao, supposedly to arrest a man tagged by U.S. government as terrorist. The operation caused fatalities including 44 PNP Special Action Forces, 18 Moro Islamic Liberation Front fighters, 7 civilians. Other likely casualties are the ruined peace process between the government and the Moro rebels, as well as the violation of Philippine sovereignty. So far, the reported extent of U.S. involvement covers activities that are banned by the Constitution. ACT Representative Tino and UP Professor Roland Simbulan said. ACT Teachers Representative Tino dared Aquino to present a legal basis for why the PNP, which is under the Department of Interior and Local Government, was in an operation with the U.S. Special Forces. Tino belied the claims of the Department of Foreign Affairs and of some senators that tried to defend or lessen the already reported U.S. involvement in Mama Sapano incident. Tino pointed out that the Mutual Defense Treaty and the Visiting Forces Agreement and even the terms of reference guiding the joint activities of U.S. and Filipino troops do not include participation of U.S. troops in combat operations or intervention in local affairs. However, the Mama Sapano operation involved the police, not the armed forces of the Philippines, and even the ones who asked for emergency medical retrieval were from the police, not the local armed forces. From this alone, Tino concluded the operation has no constitutional cover and was thus illegal. National Artist for Literature Bienvenido Lumbera said in Filipino that President Aquino should resign because of his repeated violations of the Constitution, his haciendero arrogance, and insensitivity to Filipinos. The Save Our Nation movement, or SONAR, asserted that while the Aquinos benefited from the First People Power rising by being swept to power, they don't seek the replacement of the president with just another similar representative of elite and pro-U.S. interests. The movement will collect signatures and nationwide to gather support and will hold forums and protest actions to be held in campuses nationwide. They will hold bigger protests starting February 25, a month after Mama Sapano incident and the 28th anniversary of the EDSA People Power.
Radyo Migrante every Sunday night from 9 to 10 p.m. on CHRY 105.5 FM. And we're back. You're listening to Radyo Migrante on CHRY 105.5 FM, your leading source for diversity. So again, today on Radyo Migrante, we're going to be talking about the event held yesterday called Salo-Salo 2015, which was a formal launch here in Toronto of the Filipino Workers Network. The goal of this organization is to bring unionists together along with activists so that they can get to know each other and learn from each other and hopefully work together. Before we speak to our guest tonight, we're going to listen to a short interview by Tita Pet and Kuya Louie from last night's event with John Cartwright, the president of the Toronto and York Region Labour Council.
Tonight we're talking with... Hi, John. Could you tell us something about your view on what the main obstacle for Filipino migrant workers are right now, or even just Filipino workers in Toronto are now?
Well, it's clear that the federal government is changing the rules constantly to frustrate the opportunity for Filipino workers to become landed immigrants and become ultimately Canadian citizens. For many years, as we were a place that was built by immigrants and refugees in this city and this country. People have come here, and the slogan has been, if you're good enough to work, you're good enough to stay. And the Harper government has turned that upside down and created the Foreign Temporary Worker Program with so many loopholes that many, many people will never get justice or the chance for their family to come and join them. And that's a huge obstacle. The other obstacle is that so many jobs these days are paying poverty wages. And we believe that a job should lift you out of poverty, not keep you in it. And that's why we have to organize strong unions so we can help people gain a union voice at work and raise their standards and have some benefits. And those are the two things that I think are crucial in 2015 as we're thinking about the future together.
And so the Filipino Workers Network right now has a job to do, right? What do you think it can do to resolve these problems?
Well, you know, there's over 100,000 Filipino Canadians in Greater Toronto. And within that community, there needs to be voices saying, yes, we can build a stronger future together. Yes, we can have respect at work. Yes, we can have a right to have a collective voice. That's a union. And the Filipino Network is a small step towards empowering the much broader community to being able to say we belong in Canada, we'll help shape the future of this great country together as proud Filipino Canadians.
It's one big voice, you think, for the workers' rights.
Workers' rights all around this world is in pressure by big employers, by the wealthiest 1%. They're trying to claw back rights that people have won in past generations. And we need to teach the next generation that they have to find the power working together to build the Canada they want, not just the Canada the 1% wants to exploit and get wealthy from, leaving too many people behind. Nobody should be left behind. And that's the message we have to have throughout this whole community.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So again, if you just tuned in, that was a recorded interview with John Cartwright. He's the president of the Toronto and York Region Labour Council, representing 195,000 union members in Canada's largest urban center, which is in Toronto. And for a featured interview, we have Josh Kwasay on the phone right now. He's a steering committee member of Filipino Workers Network and a member of Solidarity and Executive Board of Unite Here, Local 75. Hello, Josh.
Hi, magandang gabi po sa inyo lahat.
Magandang gabi. So, how do you feel right now after attending the event yesterday? And maybe to jump on to our conversation, maybe you can tell us about Filipino labor movement dito sa Toronto.
Filipino labor movement is a big union group of workers who is getting together with a vision to change for the better. Ibig po sabihin, ito po ay grupo ng mga tao o manggagawa na naglalayong magtaguyod ng pagbabago para sa komunidad ng pag-unlad sa lipunan ng ating ginagalawan. So, nagsisimula po ito mostly sa workplace na pinagtatrabaho natin because we're immigrants here and migrant. So, doon po nagsisimula ang dapat baguhin natin kung ano ba ang nararapat na paggawa sa bawat isa sa atin, especially sa ating mga Pilipino, para magkaroon ng magandang kinabukasan para sa ating pamilya.
Tapos, magandang gabi, Josh. Si Alex ito. Baka pwede tayo magbigay ng konting history tungkol dito sa Filipino labor movement in general dito sa Toronto.
Oh, okay.
Sa alam niyo lang, of course.
Yeah. Actually, in my workplace, I am the one who organized my workplace to be unionized. Before it's not having a union, okay? Wala pang union. So, mostly, kahit magsalita tayo, hindi tayo prakikinggan ng kumpanya na ating pinagtatrabuhan o, may-ari ng kumpanya na dapat may kagaganda ng bawat isa sa paggawa. So, having a union, especially, hindi rin nila sinusunod mga layunin ng labor law, kahit meron labor law na dapat sundin, hindi nila nagagawa ng nararapat para sa bawat isa. So, having a union is having a collective agreement within of workers and the company itself that naglalayo na kasunduan na naglalayo na dapat magkaroon ng tamang paraan, tamang proseso para sa tamang boses na sinasabi ng bawat isa na karapatan nila sa paggawa. So, ang karagdagan po nito ay ang protection ng bawat isa sa loob ng workplace na naglalayo na hindi ka basta-basta paalisin para lang, magkaroon ng diskriminasyon o i-treat ka ng hindi maganda. At saka po yung kung anong tamang, what I mean, safe workplace ang environment mo sa loob at sa labas ng komunidad. At isa pa po yung tamang pasahod sa bawat manggagawa at ang higit sa lahat ay ang right ng bawat as a human being, na right ng bawat isa kahit sabihin ikaw ay third sex or lesbian or LGBT, may boses ka na dapat pakinggan nila. At yun po ang malaking bagay para sa atin na malaman ng kapwa natin mga Pilipino na ang union ay napakahalaga na maging boses natin sa loob at labas ng ang lipo ng ating ginagalawan para sa pag-unlad ng ating pamilya ng bawat isa sa atin dito sa Canada.
Yeah, maganda na binanggit ninyo yung mga rason kung bakit sumali sa union, no, in general. Pero particular sa mga Pilipino, bakit kailangan ng mga Pilipino mag-union? At anong klaseng mga trabaho at mga ilan na ba yung mga union na involved dito sa Filipino Labor Network?
Sa ngayon po, 195,000 na po tayong mga nagbubuo ng union dito. Iba-ibang klase ng union. Mayroong ako po ay nasa grupo ng mga hotel workers. So, being one of the leader and organizer of my workplace itself, talaga pong so outspoken ako na para sa lahat, kabubuti ng lahat, ay nandiyan ako na nag-guide sa kanila ng tamang paraan kung paano may sasagawa ng tama ang paggawa at ma-resolve ang mga problema sa tamang solusyon, na may respeto ang bawat isa.
You mentioned na kailangan maging outspoken ka. Were you always outspoken? Ano yung turning point sa inyong pagiging trabahante, pagiging worker sa workplace? Ano yung nag-udyok sa inyo, nag-motivate sa inyo para maging outspoken?
Yung pong, kaya po, kasi kung hindi ka maging outspoken, at kikingdumi mo lang sa sarili mo yung nasa sa loob mo at hindi nila malalaman, hindi po mariresolve ang problema natin, kundi kailangan i-share mo lahat yon at para ma-resolve ba ng maayos sa tamang paraan. At isa pa, para magkaroon ng tamang edukasyon ng bawat manggagawa sa loob ng kumpanya o sa komunidad na ang lahat ng karapatan po ng pantao ay karapatan ng bawat isa. Hindi ka dapat matakot na isuwalat ng kung ano man nasa sa loob mo as long na ang nagsusulong ito sa kagaganda ng ating lipunan.
Tapos balik natin dito sa general status ng mga Pilipino dito sa Toronto. Alam mo ba kung karamihan ba ng mga Filipino workers dito unionized na o hindi pa? At bakit?
Yung iba pong places hindi pa po kasi mostly po sa kanila minsan mentality po natin mga Pilipino dahil sa past experience ng union sa atin before, nasa mentalidad po nila na natatakot sila at saka minsan ang inisip nila negatibo ang dating ng union sa bawat isa para maging kasapi. Sa totoo po ay hindi po yun totoo. Hindi ganon ang dapat na makita ng bawat isa. Kaya nga po kami as being a leader na outspoken ay we're reaching them out, kinakausap namin sila na hindi sila dapat matakot dahil karapatan ng bawat isa ang malaman ang kanilang karapatan. At yun po isa kagaganda ng pamilya at ng lipo na ating ginagalawan. At yung kung ano man po yung nakaraan, hindi po yun, nabago na po yung lahat ng yon at hindi kayo dapat matakot dahil kung isa sa isip nyo mentalidad na stuck sa isip nyo, mananatili kayong walang mababago sa future nyo or sa vision nyo na dapat yung dream nyo ay dapat makamit nyo in the future, para sa pamilya nyo. Kasi kung ninyo lang yan, paano malalaman ng bawat isa? Paano malalaman na ikaw ay you left behind na dito ay dapat nandito ka na sa future na maging magaan ang posisyon ng ginagalawan mo at katayuan ng iyong paggawa, pero kung di mo isasawalat, magiging mabigat po para sa sarili ng bawat isa niya. So pinupush po namin ang bawat Pilipino, hindi lang po Pilipino, pati po ibang lahi, dahil we need to embrace everybody as a union member at para, nagkakaisa tayo in brotherhood and sisterhood na wala tayong iniiwanan na sana ay magkaroon ng magandang vision sa hinarap ng buhay. And we're encouraging and we're giving motivation even sa ating pamilya. We're guiding them na kung ano yung tama, yun ang ituturo natin.
Sa tingin niyo po, bakit ba natatakot itong mga tao na ito? In general, yung mga Pilipinos, bakit natatakot? Tapos in specific, bakit, actually, different question, specific question is tungkol sa mga live-in caregivers at temporary foreign workers. Specifically sa kanila, ano yung sitwasyon nila para maging member ng union?
Kasi natatakot po sila, akala nila once na nag-voice out sila, pauwi na sila ng Pilipinas. They just, baka mamaya pagkaisan sila na, hindi, basta yung parang hindi sila naniniwala na may justice. May justice doon sa sasabihin nila. Kaya kinikim-kim na lang nila, natatakot sila. Samantalang kung tutusin, kung maisuwalat nila yan, at least maririnig ng gobyerno na dapat nilang baguhin yung mga karapatan na ang pamilya natin ay kailangan natin dito sa Canada dahil malayo tayo for a long time dahil sa ating ginagawa at kinabubuhay natin ito para sa kanilang kinabukasan, magandang kinabukasan natin sa ating pamilya at para na rin sa ating sarili. So, yung po ang parang naghahadlang sa kanila, yung takot na akala nila napapauwi na lang sila basta-bata. Hindi po, dahil once na kung kailan sinasuwalat nyo ang totoo nangyayari sa katayuan ng paggawa, doon po dapat marinig ng gobyerno na ito ay nangyayari at dapat baguhin. Kaya yun po ang dapat nating i-reach out sa lahat na paano natin malalaman lahat yun kung hindi bawat isa ay magsasalita sa atin na ito ang nangyayari sa atin. So, para magkaroon po ng magandang resolusyon o tamang paraan ng maiayos ang policy and procedure ng gobyerno para sa atin.
Babalikan ko lang din po yung isa pang question about the temporary foreign workers naman. Given na yun nga may temporary lang o may kondisyones yung pag-stay nila dito o pagtatrabaho sa Canada, paano natin encourage sila na sumama at magsalita, bigay yung kanilang boses at sa maximum ay sumali sa union?
At pwede ba? Pwede ba silang sumali sa union?
Pwede po. Basta po karamihan ng bawat isa atin, kailangan we're reaching out and we need to come out. Kaya nga po pinorm natin itong Filipino network para ma-reach out ang bawat isa sa atin, sa lahat ng mga Pilipino dito, Filipino Canadians, at even yung mga nag-umpisa pa lang ng caregiver na we are here. We are here to support each other, na kami na buong leader ng bawat union and iba-iba po mga sektor na meron po sa hotel, meron po sa manufacturing, meron po tong community leader. Kami po ang bumubuo ng sektor na para ma-reach out namin lahat. So, sa mga nakakarinig po dyan ng mga bawat Pilipino para sa atin, wag po kayo matakot. Andito lang po kami. Pwede nyo po kaming lapitan at na tawagan o ang email po, may mga leaflets po kami ilalabas. At isa na po itong radyo natin para malaman nyo na nandito kami para magsama-sama tayo at magsuporta sa bawat isa. Kung naman ay katataguyod natin sa ikagaganda ng kalagayan natin dito sa Canada.
Mamaya po ay bibigay natin yung mga information na yun, no? Pero balikan lang natin, doon sa kagabi, meron mga pins na nakasuot doon sa mga umattend ng event sa Salo-Salo. At sinasabi doon sa pin ay, the best anti-poverty program is a union. Pwede po ba kayo magbigay ng komento dito? At particular sa situation ng mga Filipinos dito sa Canada.
Opo, yan po ang pag may union po, may protection po, may benepisyo. Sa benepisyo yun, magkakaroon kayo ng medical and dental kasi kasama po yun sa standard na pinaglalaban natin para magkaroon sa agreement ng it's just called collective bargaining agreement na pumapaloob sa karapatan ng manggagawa. So, isa pa po yung rights nyo bilang as a, having a human rights, dito sa Canada, malakas po ang protection natin dyan sa bawat isa. At isa pa po yung tamang pasahod, where actually this 2015, ang campaign po natin is magkaroon ng living wages. Kasi nga tumataas po ang presyo ng mga bilihin, at isa pa yung mga ipapadala natin sa mga pamilya natin na hindi sapat. Kaya ito pong living wages nito ay para pong masuportahan talaga natin na yung kung anong tama sa atin na pamumuhay dito ay nakukuha natin, nakakamta natin. Kaya ito po yung malaking campaign natin ngayong 2015, living wages para sa lahat dito sa Toronto, Canada. At hindi lang po dito, even po sa ibang parte ng Canada. So yan po ang malaking campaign natin. At especially yung worker rights natin all over the world, being me as an example na LGBTQ member dito sa Toronto, I'm really outspoken and I'm being advocate in this term, being LGBT na nagkakampaign ng karapatan ng lesbian and gay rights.
So balik natin dito sa Filipino Workers Network. Actually, magandang transition ito. Baka pwede nyo ibanggit at ikwento sa mga listeners, ano ba itong network na ito? Kailan ito binuo at bakit siya binuo?
Ito po ay binuo noong Hulyo 2014 at ito po ay ugnayan ng mga manggagawang Filipino-Canadian sa Kalakaang Toronto. Para magkaroon ng suporta ang bawat isa sa pagsasagawa ng unyon at mahikayat ibang kasapi sa positibong paraan tungo sa pagbibigay ng tuwirang mensahe sa komunidad. Ang ugnayan ay gabay ng Labour Council ng Ontario pero panamuhan ng mga aktibong manggagawa at leader ng unyon sa bawat komunidad. So yun po, so ito po yung pinakang basis natin na kami po ay bumubuo ng mga leader and organizer ng iba-ibang unyon para ma-reach out ang komunidad dito sa Toronto. So, and we're really proud and last night is being successful kahit po medyo malakas ang snow. Nobody really stop us to do this thing na magkasama-sama kagabi. Kaya it's really wonderful to see everybody, the strength of everyone as a leader na masagawa ang Filipino network.
Bukod po sa snow kagabi, meron pa po bang ibang challenges sa pagbubuo ng network na ito mula sa pag-found noong July 2014? At ano po yung nakikita ninyo, na-envision ninyo para sa susunod na taon? At sino po yung mga members ng network sa present?
Ang members po nito, ako, sina Chris Sorio, na isang labor leader sa social issues, especially sa caregiver sa temporary workers. Leonora Garcia, Jenny Maceda, Michael Guzman, Cesar Ramirez, Alex Banaag, Ben Corpus, Paulina Corpus, Pura Velasco. Pura Velasco. Lina, Richie Leader, Laurelie De Los Reyes, Julie, and also, of course, what else? Sen Maceda. So, kami po ang bumubuo ng committee sa as a start, pero ang layunin po natin ay mahikayat ang bawat isa in every sector at reaching out ang komunidad. So magtatayo kami po, ang vision namin in the long and moving forward ay magkaroon ng committee bawat places pa hangit ugnayan kami sa bawat leader wherever our Filipino leaders are. So yun po ang aming purpose para by next year magkabuo-buo ulit kami, magkasama-sama, mas malaki tayo, mas strength and mas stronger than ever. So yun po ang purpose natin moving forward in the future na maging successful po ito.
Yeah, so having said that, paano po sumali sa Filipino Labor Network? Ano po yung mga number na tatawagan? Paano po kayo kukontakin? At ano po yung other details na gusto nyong i-siwalat or i-share sa ating mga listeners?
Pwede niyo po ako tawagan. Ang telepono ko po ay 416-400-1469. At pwede niyo rin pong tawagan ang Network Labor Council at 416-445-5819, extension 23. Tapos ang email address po is network@laborcouncil.ca.
Alright, salamat po at ipopost natin yan sa Radyo Migrante Facebook page.
Maraming salamat din po.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Alright. Yeah, that was a very interesting conversation with Josh. Maraming mga pwede pang pag-usapan in the coming future, I would say, about the group because especially we've heard that Filipino Labor Network is just one of the networks that are being built across the different ethnic communities to solidify itong mga workers natin, no, to unionize. So, yeah.
Ang maganda din ang message ni Josh ay hindi lang ito tungkol sa workers. Itong mga LGBTQ issues, you can see the solidarity between different struggles of social justice in this community. Kaya kung interesado kayo, please get in touch. Ang binigay niyo ng mga numbers was the Labor Network Council, which was 416-445-5819, extension 23, or email network@laborcouncil.ca.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight, I guess, for our synthesis is that hindi lang ito about unions or a stereotype of what a union is. It's about collective action, collective voices, right? So to somehow so in solidarity we work together for our common goals, for a better society. So I guess I would say ang pagtatayo ng Filipino Workers Network ay isang makasaysayang hakbang para lalo pang pagtingin ang pagkakaisa ng lahat ng manggagawang Pilipino. Ito ang magbubuklod at mag-oorganisa ng mga manggagawang kasapi man o hindi ng union. Sa pamamagitan din nito ay magkakaroon ng mas malawak na ugnayan ng iba pang network ng mga manggagawa ng iba pang lahi at iba pang komunidad, partikular dito sa Toronto. Bilang mga Filipinong manggagawa sa labas ng bansa o mga migrante, hindi maitatanggi na may ugnay pa rin tayo sa bayang ating pinanggagalingan. Katulad nga ng sinabi ni Josh, ang pakikibaka ng manggagawa sa Pilipinas ay hindi kaiba o kahiwalay sa pakikibakang isinusulong ng migranteng manggagawa sa usapin ng trabaho, benepisyo at karapatan. Ito ay dahil ang kahirapan at kawalan ng trabaho sa atin ang siyang nagtutulak sa atin upang mangibang bayan at maghanap ng mapagkakakitaan, hahanap buhay, kung saan ang dolyar na kinikita ay pinapadala natin bilang mga remittance sa ating mga kamag-anak at pamilyang naiwan sa Pilipinas. Ang mga padalang dolyar na ito ang siyang nagbubulwak ng bilyong dolyar na remittance na patuloy na tumutulong sa ekonomiya ng Pilipinas kahit pa sa contradiction ng mga pangyayari doon. Hanggat may pagkakaisa ang mga manggagawang Pilipino sa pamamagitan ng Filipino Labor Network na kasama ang iba pang mga manggagawa mula sa iba't ibang mga lahi, makakatiyak ang uring manggagawa at ang kilusang paggawa sa katiyakan niya para mabuhay ng desente at tiyak tungo sa desenteng trabaho, makataruang ang benepisyo at karapatan.
So we're gonna play a short clip from yesterday's Salo-Salo 2015 Pulso ng Migrante segment. It's by Tita Pet and Kuya Louie. And yeah, it's really good to hear that it was such a well-attended event yesterday. You were saying there, Ish, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, especially with the snow, because I didn't think anyone would do it.
That's pretty accessible, I would say. That's why it was easy. Yeah. And
Okay.
I guess because of the food too, they advertised
Asa
that.
lechon lang pala pumunta eh. Yun lang. Okay. So went from uplifting to gutom yung mga tao. Thanks, Ish. Okay. So here's a pulso ng Migrante segment.
Saan mang dako ng mundo, may migranteng Pilipino.
Yung lalo-lalo na sa ating mga Pilipino na nagtatrabaho dito sa Canada, right? Sumali ako sa Union nung ako ay dumating dito sa Canada. That was 1998 under United Food Special Workers Union. Nung sumali ako, doon ko nakita yung value ng union na alam ko as a may family, merong seguridad ako sa trabaho. And also, hindi lang seguridad, kundi yung benepisyo na makukuha ng family ko, pati mga anak ko, right? Dito sa Canada, malaki ang magagawa ng union, lalo-lalo sa kapwa natin mga Filipino. Dahil dumarating sila dito sa Canada sa ngayon na bilang isang agency worker, right? So bilang agency worker, wala kang nakukuhang benepisyo o job security, right? So kailangan natin dito sa Canada, tayo mga Pilipino na magkabuklod-buklod, magkasama-sama tayo at bigyan natin ng edukasyon para maging bukas sa kanilang isipan.
Ang minamahal ay iwan upang ang buhay.
It's great protection in the workplace to make sure there's fine guidelines set between the employer and the employees, and to respect each other's time and rights and benefits.
Siyempre, yung protection, mas malaking sweldo, stable.
Sa ng union, maraming nagawa sa akin ng union. Naging maganda ang ng trabaho ko. Hindi porket union member ako, aside from that, nagtatrabaho ko sa union. Nag-aano ko ng mga staff. Kinukonvince ko sila mag-join ng union at the same time yung sa union namin ng SEIU. So, i-explain ko sa kanila kung gaano kahalaga sa isang workers ang may union. Protection. Yun ang magandang meron kang protection in case na get in trouble ka, union will protect you. Union is there to stand for you. Union is there to represent you. Everything.
Makipagsapalaran. Whoa.
Talaga ang union para sa mga katulad kong nagtatrabaho, para sa mga karapatan nila, kung anong gusto nilang nangyayari sa work nila, may ibo-voice out nila ng malaya para sa lahat.
The union is really important to me because, I had in the past I'd been a low-wage worker, and becoming a member of the union pretty much meant that my wages doubled. I had benefits. I had a collective agreement. I had a process of protection when I entered the union for any sort of disputes, and the union movement outside of my own local also opened up opportunities to explore other issues important to society as well as meet people from around the world. So tonight's event, which was an event for the Filipino Workers Network, is really significant in the city of Toronto. I'm from the Chinese community. I'm part Chinese. I immigrated to Canada from Jamaica. And so the Labour Council here in the city of Toronto has worked on other networks such as the Chinese Workers Network and others. So to see the Filipino Workers Network come this far, almost to the first anniversary, is definitely significant for the city of Toronto.
Hi there, my name is Ibrahim Boza. I'm an executive board member with OFWs in Region 5, which is Toronto. And we are very proud to host
the Toronto and York Regional Labor Council's Filipino Workers Network. Being in a union is pretty much the most natural thing you can do and should do as a worker. It's quite clear that the employers, the bosses of the world, are very well organized, and they have an agenda that is not the same as ours. Our agenda spreads out and helps everyone involved. And we want to make sure that the labor movement is inclusive. And we want to make sure no one and no group is left behind. And just as, say, for example, Italian construction workers were being harassed by police in Toronto, and they had significant health and safety concerns on the job. And the labor movement rallied around them and made sure that in the true spirit of the movement, when one person falls, everyone gathers around and picks them up. And as the demographics of this country and this city change, we want to make sure that we actually capture all the new people that are involved and remind them very clearly that just as generations before were shown that the labor movement is for everyone, once again, once you're here, you're with us, this movement is yours. I would very much like every single person listening to understand that the labor movement is the reason why, at least half of the reason why people come to this country. You know, a good portion of the things that we all rely upon, some of us take for granted, was won through hard struggles like EI, pensions, health and safety reform, all that sort of stuff. None of that stuff was given to us for free. It took the efforts of real people from all over the world, whether they're new immigrants, refugees, young, old, everyone getting together, the people, the real people, not the rich people, getting together and fighting for it, demanding it, and securing it for everyone. That is the tradition that we come from, and we are honored to have the Filipino community recognized and invited to take part in that proud change.
All right, so that was Kuya Pet and Kuya Pet
and Tita Lou.
Yeah, sorry. Those are Radyo Migrante collective members, Tita Pet and Kuya Louie, who recorded the Pulsona Migrante from last night, Salo-Salo 2015. I guess we can add some more on our perspectives on labor organizing, collectivism, I would say. Why is it important for us?
And I think also important for yung mga dito na pinanak at mga dito na lumaki to get involved, to learn about the issues of our parents and also of our mga kababayan. And to it shouldn't just be that it's just an immigrant issue, no? Kasi lalo na kung university educated ka na, meron ka ng position dito sa Canada, may trabaho ka na dito, matulungan mo din kababayan natin.
In history too, like one of the greatest Filipino writers, Carlos Bulosan, is a labor organizer
in the US.
In the US, but his influence is waving from the US center to back to the Philippines and also in Canada, because in the 1930s, shinare ni John Cartwright kagabi na the day of the labor union members here in Toronto.
Oh, I didn't know
at that time.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, so that was really
magandang link yun. We should find out more about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting to bring Carlos Bulosan here.
And for our listeners, if you want to know more about the historical period of that time, you can watch Delano Manongs. It's a film produced by a filmmaker based in the US.
Is that out yet?
Yeah, it was out last year. Yeah.
I mean, can we get it on DVD?
I believe so. Let me just
Anyways,
look it
we'll
up.
post the information on the Radyo Migrante page. Alam ko na mapapanood may mga segments. It's on YouTube already.
I believe
documentary hindi ko pa napapanood.
I believe you can purchase the DVD copy from the filmmaker's website.
We should do a screening. Anyway, so I think for our announcements today, we just want to remind our listeners, kung interesado kayo maging part nitong Radyo Migrante Collective, we're always looking for new people, no? So there's a lot of different jobs that you can do.
What are they? Board operator, reporter or correspondent, researcher, and social media archivist. And if you've listened to our Pulso ng Migrante, you can do that wherever you are located. Just give us your contact information, I guess.
Actually, gustong-gusto natin yung kung merong mga ibang mga Filipinos from across Canada. Miski galing sa ibang bansa, pwede pa rin, di ba?
Yes,
It would
exactly.
be very, very interesting to have that segment coming from other parts of the world. So we can send you information by
emailing us, radmig105.5fm@gmail.com, or you can also call 647-281-0652 if you're based here in Toronto or in Canada.
So up next, we have Roy Green from Odyssey. Maraming salamat for listening to Radyo Migrante on CHRY 105.5 FM.
Thank you, Alex, and for manning the board, and thank you for our Radio Migrante collective members.
You should say hi to Mom. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
That's Rhea. Hi, Rhea. Why isn't she answering back? Anyways, I thought she'd answered back on the phone, on the our internet connection here. Good night, everyone.
This is KMU song for our outro song. Have a great week.
Saan man sulok ng bayan, bandilang pula ay winawagayway ng uring manggagawa. Ang hukbong mapagpalaya, taglay ang diwang palaban. Handang magtanggol saan mang labanan, hanggat may uring nagsasamantala. Patuloy ang ating pakikibaka. Sa Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, dumadagundong ang mga sigaw. Sa pabrika, sa layon at kalunsuran, kilusang Mayo ulo ay lumalaban. Sa Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, dumadagundong ang mga sigaw. Sa pabrika, sa layon at kalunsuran, kilusang Mayo ulo ay lumalaban. Sa bawat pagkilos at pagpapasya mula